Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Super Negotiate. This is a very interesting episode. We are going to go back and take a piece of advice from our history books. We are going to see famous personalities and their negotiation tactics. We are starting with Sir Winston Churchill in this episode. We are going to see about 4 different tactics that I have learned. Now, if you see, Winston Churchill was a tough negotiator. That was his de facto style of negotiation, but not the only style, and that's what we are keen to share today. Let me give you an interesting story or one of his tactics. In difficult negotiation, Winston Churchill used to light up a cigar. He was never seen without a cigar, but he would put a hatpin in the cigar, and then he was lighting it. He will take it impossibly long time while the opponent was speaking. The effect that this tactic had in the negotiation room, it will turn attention on Sir Winston Churchill and not on the point that his opponent was making. And this will also allow him some extra time to think about his point. So power, establishing himself at the center of negotiation, and the delay tactic to get some time to think about his response. In fact, this tactic is being used by my favorite chess player, Magnus Carlsen. He offsetly arrives quite late. In fact, in one of the game, he arrives 2.5 minutes late in a 3-minute chess game. He admitted this being as a tactic to reset his opponent's mindset. But let's get back to the 4 tactics I want to discuss about Sir Winston Churchill's negotiation style. First, my favorite. He was a thorough, detailed negotiator. In fact, he used data before entering into any negotiation. His friend, Frederick Lindman, was his data scientist. He took the responsibility or charge to collect all the data, facts and figures and position of his opponents, and he supplied that to Churchill. And based upon that, Churchill used to form his ammunition, what we call as leverages, and negotiate with American counterparts. This is the objective we have been teaching in T60 Negotiation Challenge. Ask your procurement excellence team, ask your data scientist team to give you only data, fact-based insights, not opinions. In fact, Winston Churchill was known to disregard any subjectivity being pushed at him during his negotiation preparation phase. That brings me to the second point. Using this insight, he always played according to the personality he was dealing with. That is the second point I observed. Let me give you an example. He knew that American President Roosevelt was a very detailed-oriented person. But during one of the negotiations, he, the American president, wanted a quick landing, meaning a quick decision. But then Winston Churchill organized an off-site meeting, and we'll come back to this point why this was his another tactic. But he organized an off-site meeting with him before the official negotiation, and he took time to explain him through in detail all the facts and numbers and decisions and strategies before entering into a strategic meeting of the negotiation. Contrary to that, when he was negotiating with Stalin, he explained his strategy in a simple manner, but he drew pictures to explain how he will achieve that. So when the counterparties arrived in the negotiation room, they already had the context well understood. Now these 2 details, these 2 styles of negotiation are very, very different. Important point to learn is, you as a buyer, when you are going to negotiate with the supplier, you need to understand what kind of supplier you're dealing with. You need to understand what kind of personality that person has. These are the points I've been teaching in T60 negotiation. Understand your people, understand their negotiation tactics, and then enter into the negotiation room. The third one is most interesting, and my favorite one is Churchill always brought all the parties, on most of the occasion, at the heart of the action for the decision making. If I have to give you an example, I think in 1940s when Churchill was pushing for a particular landing in Sicily, to convince the American counterparts generals, instead of flying to the White House, he asked everybody to come at Casablanca. This goes on to show how important this is to have the negotiation in an environment where people understand the context. Now, this can be loosely connected to my point of having face-to-face negotiation. Everybody post-COVID is becoming more comfortable of picking up the phone and bringing laziness, negotiating on emails, which is the worst way of negotiation in my view. Always ask your suppliers to come to your place for negotiation. Face-to-face negotiation are the de facto way, in my view, to achieve a successful outcome. It helps you understand the other party's perspective, not only re-emphasizing your position as the negotiator and the controller of the agenda. The fourth one, he was very flexible to give away small wins to his opponents. And he was also humble enough to understand that his position is no longer of power. So he was flexible to rework his position and give away some grounds to his opponents. 2 examples for this. I think he was not in favor of Normandy landing, but given the circumstances changed, he agreed to it. Second, in the Yalta conference that I mentioned before, he agreed to make Stalin as the leader. In fact, this is one tip that I took for myself. To become an effective negotiator, we should be willing to renegotiate with our counterparties, stakeholders, when the context have changed. The second point, that we must be willing to renegotiate or let go of our initial stubborn demand. I've seen so many negotiators sticking on to their initial demand, being stubborn about it, that it stalls the negotiation. We should know how to reposition ourselves. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Gaurav. I run a channel called supernegotiate.com. It's a community where I teach spend analysis, everything about negotiation and procurement excellence digitization. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.